2005's Sin City is perhaps best remembered as the comic book movie that, more than any other before it, was able to expertly translate what was on the page to the screen. As a matter of fact, director Robert Rodriguez rustled some feathers in the storyboard artist union by basically just using pages from Frank Miller's black and white noir comic as the storyboards. Now, I really liked the movie when it came out. It was unlike anything else I had ever seen before in the comic book movie genre at that time, and Mickey Rourke just commanded the screen as the scarred Marv in another piece of excellent casting that helped the actor make a big comeback. It's now been 9 years and Rodriguez and Miller are back for the sequel, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, a sequel that takes the daring, or frustrating depending on who you ask, route of having its stories take place during, before, and after the events of the last movie. Because this is an anthology movie, I'm gonna have to review this a little bit differently. Basically, we have 4 stories this time around, 2 being from the comics and 2 brand new ones written by Miller himself, which honestly, before the movie's release, this idea did kinda fill me with dread. I mean, the less said about Frank Miller's more recent work, the better, I think. And make no mistakes, this is a Frank Miller joint through and through. His name is on the title card and he makes multiple cameos throughout the movie. The big centerpiece, of course, is A Dame to Kill For, which, despite having its name in the title, just so happens to be the 3rd story told. Fans love this one for a couple reasons, the main one being that it features Ava Lord, a woman who makes use of her weaponized sexuality to drive men wild, and who has a troubled past with Dwight McCarthy pre-plastic surgery. Eva Green absolutely owns this role, and she nails the film's noir cadence and is totally up for the more tongue-in-cheek aspects of the Sin City series. I would love to show you what else she gets right, but unfortunately she spends about 90% of her screen time nude. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This one also happens to be the longest segment of the movie and will no doubt be the one that people are talking about months from now. This story also gives fans the long-awaited smackdown between the 2 seemingly superhuman bruisers, Marv and Manute. Of course, one of the problems with this being a prequel, you know neither men are actually gonna die in this fight, so all the tension is quickly deflated. This is pretty much true for every story in the movie, and it's a real shame because both actors put a hell of a lot of work in here. The Long Bad Night finds Joseph Gordon-Levitt as a nameless gambler going up against power boost Senator Rourke, aka the only villain from the last movie who didn't get his comeuppance, and who actually functioned as the villain for at least 3 out of the main 4 stories. Levitt does a pretty good job here, being no stranger to this kind of role, but his story is easily the weakest and probably the least Sin City-ish feeling overall. Again, the main guy is never even given a name or a clear motivation, so it's kinda hard to care about his ultimate fate. And then there's Nancy's Last Dance, the only story that is a direct continuation from the last Sin City. Nancy Callahan has fallen into a depression and is quite literally being haunted by the ghost of John Hartigan. She plans to kill Senator Rourke and is aided by Marv, who is somehow able to do this before the end of his story, the big fat kill in the last one. It also doesn't help that this part calls for Jessica Alba to do the hard-boiled narration thing, and she really can't pull it off. I actually got a chance to see this one in 3D, and there's some really interesting use of snow and rain, but the film just kinda stops doing it by the end. The score is also fittingly moody, and a couple of theme pieces from the original Sin City also make reappearances here to pretty good effect. The worst thing I can really say about Sin City: A Dame to Kill For is it doesn't really do anything better than the first movie. There's no fight scene as cool or as brutal as the Kevin one, no villain as vile or terrifying as the Yellow Bastard, although they do try, and there's no hooker shootout better than the one in Old Town from the first movie. Dame feels much more like a retread than an actual sequel. If you're a super fan, then you'll probably be pleased to have more of what you liked and what worked about the original Sin City. But then again, if you are a fan, you probably own a copy of the first movie, and you might actually be better served staying home and waiting for the sequel on DVD. Overall, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For is decent. It has solid action, a great art aesthetic that's still working after all this time, and some pretty good performances sprinkled in there. But honestly, after almost a decade wait, the death of 2 of the former movie's stars, and the complete implosion of Frank Miller, I was really hoping for more than just good enough, you know what I'm saying? 6.5 out of 10.